Bo Bichette has not been playing well for the Toronto Blue Jays this season. His name has been rumored on the trade block, and Jays fans are fired up. They want to see something out of him. They want to see him come to life this season, which is not something that we have seen this year from him. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Sorry for my absence the last few days. I'm still recovering. My voice, that is. I've been in Seattle, back in Vancouver now, but went to see the Jays against the Seattle Mariners. Very fun couple of days there for the Blue Jays, Nick. The first game, low scoring pitching duel to be expected between these two teams. And then yesterday, we saw the offense come to life, and we saw some really nice things. 1 through 9, apart from Bo Bichette, that is. But there were a lot of Blue Jay fans, a lot of noise being made for the boys out there, and it's just a great time. So if you haven't seen T-Mobile Park, if you haven't visited, go ahead and do that because it's a lot of fun. But Nick, I'm having a blast over here. Yesterday's game was a lot of fun, and the Jays picked up a win, which they desperately needed, being that there were 10 games under 500 going into yesterday's ball game.
Yeah, and despite that win, Jays fans are still upset at really one player in particular. We're going to dive into all that, Bo Bichette, as well as some Ross Atkins stuff. Let's just dive into it, Peter. There's a lot that's been happening over the past couple of days. You've obviously been in Seattle enjoying the game, but there was a big article dropped, and it's getting tons of traction by Steve Simmons, basically ripping Mark Shapiro, ripping Bo Bichette, ripping Ross Atkins, saying Mark Shapiro can only try to shelter himself in the impending Jays front office shuffle. And obviously, yesterday was a great win, but that doesn't distract us from the fact that Bo Bichette is having the worst season of his career. The Jays are having their worst season in a very, very long time, with there being 16 games back of the division. But Bo Bichette, and you kind of mentioned it, and you're at the ballpark, fans are really starting to turn on Bo Bichette, not necessarily as a player, but just, I don't know whether it's the lack of effort. Maybe it looks like he's not trying, even though I'm sure he definitely is. Fans are done with Bo Bichette, and quite frankly, I'm not sure how much longer Bo Bichette will be on the team. Obviously, Atkins came out and said that they won't be traded this season, but I don't know, Peter. It's a very weird
Yeah.
experiment that seems to have gone very, very wrong. And I'll dive into the rest of this article in a minute, which highlights some interesting things from Simmons. But Bo Bichette is a problem at this point. He has almost a 500, like in better approach a 500 OPS, which is very rough in the low
Yeah.
600s there. This is a disaster for the Blue Jays, and I don't know what they do from here. Vladdy's an automatic extension. Bo Bichette, they said they weren't going to trade him, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I don't know what his value is right now because if you take a look at his last season as well, it wasn't great if you take away his month of September. And obviously that's not fair because right now we're singing the praises of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and he's having a great month. But if it wasn't for this month that he's having right now, then maybe we're having a different discussion surrounding him. So I'm not going to do that with Bo, but he has shown some wild inconsistencies in the past couple of years. And this year, we're just waiting for him to turn the corner. But at least last year, it looked like he was invested and he showed signs of frustration. I don't know what's going on in his personal life, but right now it seems like he's checked out on the ball field. And I don't know why that is, but his at bats are not competitive at all. Like even when he was struggling last year, at least he was having competitive at bats and he was having some loud outs as well. But this year, we're seeing him swing at pitches 18 inches off the plate. We're seeing him just flail away and have really uncompetitive at bats in the middle of the Blue Jays lineup every single day. So I don't know what it is. I don't know what needs to change for him. I think it's an approach thing, but right now it just seems as though he doesn't not want any part of the Toronto Blue Jays. And I don't blame him, but still, he's not doing anything to uplift this team because they need him. They need him to perform if they want to even think about making a run at the wild card, and he hasn't done that so far.
Yeah, and even the advanced metrics aren't doing much in his favor. And we know that obviously last season he had a really up and down year, and we said, yeah, the September was the big bounce back. But other than that, he's been rough now for a little bit, and it's a little bit concerning. He obviously came out and said that he wouldn't be surprised if he got traded at the deadline this year, even though Ross Atkins went out and said that he will not be traded. At least that's their public stance as
Right.
of a few weeks ago on the Blair, or a week or so, a couple weeks ago, sorry, on the Blair and Barker show. And obviously Ross Atkins is not going to say that because if he trades Bo Bichette, his job is probably coming to an end as well. Same with John Schneider's and things like that. And you see this here. Bo Bichette doesn't want to play for a losing team, which is some of the fan base is what they're saying. But people also, you can take the stance that if Bo Bichette was performing to up to his ability, there's a chance this Jays team is in a much different spot. And we can see how much a difference Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has made this year. I don't know where they'd be without him and a couple of the other guys. But you look at, it was within Steve Simmons' article, and I'm not a huge Steve Simmons fan at all, but he actually hit the nail on the head fairly well in this article. But obviously Guerrero has been decent, but the worst year, Bo Bichette's otherwise excellent career, he put a negative WAR so far this season, and a lot of that falls, and you can pause and read this, I'm not going to read the entire thing, but basically, Shapiro, he rips Ross Atkins, saying that Shapiro can build a great arena, but can't build a winning team. I'm not going to go that far, but he kind of has a point here. Like, the Jays are in such a weird spot and not a very good spot. They don't really have they're going to probably trade off some of their rentals. But Peter, if you told me at the start of the season they'd be 9 games under 500 as the deadline approaches, it would be an absolute disaster. And quite frankly, it is a disaster. Is there time to turn it around? Maybe. But with the deadline only a month or so away, it's getting very, very tight. And I'm not sure what they do with specifically Bo Bichette, because I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at this point has made it clear he wants to stay with the Jays. And I think the Jays will ultimately get that done.
Yeah, well, they need to start working on that as soon as possible. But Nick, I want to ask you this: that quote that Bichette had, that he wouldn't be surprised he would be traded. How much of a warning sign is that for you? Because for me personally, I mean, that is very telling when a player says to me that he's checked out, he doesn't want to be here, and it's pretty evident with this play on the field. We're seeing no fight back. We're seeing no desperation out of Bo Bichette. Like, it's basically just biding his time until he's actually traded or he finds a new home. I don't know what turned and what soured in the relationship between him and the Blue Jays, but it's been anything but pretty to watch. And I don't know. I want to ask you, what do you think about that quote? How concerning is that to you if you're the Blue Jays front office?
Yeah, it's not great. And again, you see this here. I keep bringing this up because Ross Atkins kept saying they're not going to deal Bo Bichette. They're not going to deal a lot of these guys. Granted, this is a little bit before their big losing streak now. But I think it goes to show that, and Bo Bichette clarified after, basically saying that the team is playing terribly, so he obviously wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded. But it's not very often that a star player ever says that. Like, even publicly when asked that question, they just avoid it. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was asked the exact same question and said that he wants to be a Blue Jay for life and that he wants to be a part of this team for the going forward, and that contract talks are hopefully ongoing and they're not going to be something that's public. But yeah, I mean, it sucks. I don't know. The Bo Bichette, it's a different vibe right now with him. I haven't seen this. He obviously was injured for a bit of the season. His play is obviously terrible so far this year, but it's very scary that one of the players that we thought was going to be a Blue Jay for life, and that if you asked a lot of fans last year, even the offseason last year, you'd probably pick Bo Bichette over Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and now it's not even a question at this very point who is going to be the future of this team. And maybe there's a world where they extend both of them. Bo is only 26 years old, career 300-ish hitter. But I don't know. It's a concerning quote, even though he's not necessarily wrong either.
No, he's not. But you just don't want to hear that out of one of your star players. And Vladdy could have took that same exact route because there's a lot of uncertainty regarding his contract status too. Both of those guys are going to be free agents next offseason or the offseason after this one. So he could have easily turned around and said the same thing, but he didn't. You don't have to go to the extent that Vladdy didn't say, oh, I want to be here for life and make false promises. But you have to be professional in your answer. And I don't know if that was necessarily a professional answer from Bo Bichette, because his play, it's not like he's playing well and he's upping his trade value. It looks like he's tanking games out there. And I'm not going to go ahead and accuse him of that, but he's not putting an effort out there. He's not, and he does not look like he's interested in playing ball for this team in the extended future. And that was telling with that quote, and his playing, the way that he's playing is also pretty telling as well. So I see all of these factors working together, and I don't know how sold I am on Bo Bichette if I'm the Blue Jays front office going forward.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like fans are either, whether it's in Seattle or whether it's back here. But let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. As the Jays hopefully get a win today against the Seattle Mariners in a game that they really do need to win. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments down below what you think. Thank you guys for watching.